What's up, boys?
What's up?
It's
We're back.
Wednesday. It's
Finally.
Wednesday. We're back. Like I like to say, during the week, we survived another week of NFL football. We're all here, survived all the carnage. How's everybody doing tonight?
Man, I'm good. It's good to be back. Obviously, with the Thanksgiving, coming around and everybody being with their families, it was a little tough to get on those Sundays and during the week also with Thanksgiving being on a Thursday. So we apologize for not being on as much, but we're back now and we're ready to get into it because it's heating up. The year's almost coming to an end and it's going off in the world of sports right now, man. It's a fucking great time to be a sports fan. I'll tell you that.
What a time to be alive, dare I say. Ben, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Good, bro. I'm doing good. Glad I could be on. My new work schedule has kind of messed with me and the pod timing. So, I'm kind of limited, but I'm glad to be on today. We got a lot to talk about, a bunch of topics on the board for tonight. Glad to be with the boys.
Yeah, so like Ron said in his introduction, Thanksgiving was this past weekend. As we all know, Thanksgiving is a national football holiday pretty much. There's football on all day. We had World Cup going on Thanksgiving with England versus USA. I want to say that was the day of the game, but anyways, a lot happened. So this podcast, we're going to do a little bit of recap. We're going to do a little bit of looking forward. We're going to talk about NCAA, NFL, talk about the FIFA World Cup, and some NBA MVP predictions. And Josh, shout out Josh in the comments. Shout out everybody there. You're right. There is 3 or 4. Justin is not here with us today. Unfortunately, he's a little under the weather tonight. So shout out Justin. Hope you're feeling well and on the mend.
Nah, man,
Without further ado, boys, we got a full slate of topics to talk about. We got NFL State of the Union. We're going to do a little college football reaction to what happened. The rankings just came out, the last rankings of the regular season before the conference championships happened this week. And then we got the FIFA World Cup officially, USA into the round of 16 after missing the previous World Cup. They come in, they say, world, we're back. We're back ready for the world stage, the global stage again. And they advance in dramatic fashion, as it typically is with the United States, but they got it done. And then, like I said earlier, early MVP candidates, and we're going to talk about that guy right there for sure. For those of you guys that are watching, that's Luka Doncic for the Mavs.
Donkey.
So let's get into it. State of the Union, the Daily Shield. Let's kick it off because this might be the biggest news of the week. Happy Endings in Ohio is the title here. Deshaun Watson is returning officially after his suspension for what happened or what happened when he was a part of the Texans organization and that whole ordeal that they had there with the masseuses
allegedly
and improper behavior with those women. I think it was over 20 was the number that it came out to be. Ben, of course, allegedly there wasn't anything criminal that went on as far as like the courts are concerned. So that's why Deshaun Watson is not inside of a jail cell right now. He's playing football. Ben, I know you have him on your fantasy team. You've been waiting to play him. I commend you for the pickup. Do you think it's an auto start? Week 1, you just put him right in. You're not worried about any rust?
No, we are worried, a little worried about Russ just because he didn't look good in the little preseason that he played, although it was the preseason. But I mean, what better of a spot than, coming back against the Houston Texans, a team that's already gone away from Davis Mills, gone to their backup, Allen, and they kind of just threw in the towel already. They're tanking for that draft pick. This is a 3-touchdown Deshaun Watson, comeback. Welcome back, Deshaun, against the Texans. The Browns have nothing to play for except to get a little momentum going into the offseason and have each other feeling good, coming into the new season with Deshaun for the full season. So I see 2 to 3 touchdowns for Deshaun Watson's comeback against the Texans this coming Sunday, bro. I think it's an auto start. I had Brady in there, picked up Deshaun 2 to 3 weeks ago. It's your moment, kid. It's your moment. Go get him.
Ron, are you as excited about Deshaun's return? Do you think there's going to be rust? And I see your comment here. I think it might have been the NFL. Do you think there's peculiar timing with his comeback here, being against the former team that suspended him, that he wanted out, and then all of this news came out? Do you think this is weird timing?
No, I think it's perfect. I meant to put the NFL did that on purpose, but I mean, we've seen it before. Roger Goodell loves the camera, man. He's a guy that likes to be in the headlines all the time. He's like P. Diddy back in the day when he was all up in the videos. That's like Roger Goodell with the NFL. That's like Jerry Jones with the NFL. They got to be a part of the headlines. So he goes back home. It's like, you did something terribly wrong, but what can we do to still hype it up and make it feel cool? Oh, let's be your very first game back is against your old team. Let's do that. I am on the other side of Ben, though. I don't think that he performs as well. Cleveland they were kind of like a Seahawks story this year. They weren't meant, they weren't supposed to be as good. Brissett was here and they've done well. They haven't done too bad. So I think maybe putting him in now might mess things up. That chemistry might mess up.
They're out of the playoffs. They're out of the playoffs, Ron.
I understand that, but
there ain't no chemistry to mess up because the season is over.
Still, I just don't think that he performs in your 2 or 3 touchdown range, 300 yards. I could see him getting, maybe 1 touchdown, throwing for like 215, 220, just getting warm again. But I don't see no 2-3 touchdowns of over 300 yards kind of game.
Yeah, the only reason why I would tend to side with Ron on this one is not because I think Deshaun Watson is going to have a bad game. It's just that they're not going to need to use him. Like they're just going to warm him up for the next week. I think this game against the Texans, we've seen what teams have done against the Texans, and that's just run the damn ball. You don't even really have to do much. Tua didn't really have a big game. I think Skylar Thompson was playing by the third quarter. Not that the Browns are the Dolphins, but I just don't know that they're going to need to be airing it out and getting him going so early. They're going to lean a little bit on Chubb and Hunt to get Deshaun Watson, comfortable a little bit. And then I think they're going to start to, unleash him, if you will, as the game goes on and, throughout the end of the season. So I would wait one more week. But, I mean, if you need to play a quarterback, I mean, I don't think it's a bad play per se. I don't think that he's going to pop the way that you think he is, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, if you handcuffed him all year and he's ready to go, you ain't going to leave him on your bench.
No, but it's not even an all-year thing. Like I said, it happened 2 weeks ago, but this is that shiny new toy, that's ready to play, and you got to roll him out and put me in, coach. Let Booby spin. Come on.
And speaking of people calling for coach to put him in and to let him spin, to let him throw those spirals, we might have a little controversy going on in Green Bay between Aaron Rodgers, Jordan love him or leave him. Jordan Love might be making a push to possibly be the starter. Aaron Rodgers dealing with some injuries. There's already been talk about Rodgers and whether or not he's going to want to be out there when the Packers are out of contention for the playoffs. Do you think there's any substance here in this headline, love him or leave him? Do you think if Love gets a play, it's just because they need to see exactly what they have in the guy? Or do you think there's, a chance that he could play good and they try and find another home for Rodgers?
I don't think after the game and hearing, Van Pelt and them kind of going into the Aaron Rodgers post-game interview, he said, if I'm healthy, I'm playing next week. Like, there's no question about that. So I think that he understands if he's not on the field, that's just an opportunity for him to lose his job, albeit he did want to get traded. You would think, he was playing with a broken thumb already. Now another injury, you would think he kind of just hangs it up for the year. They have nothing to play for. But it seems like the competitor in him, I think, just the fact of losing your job, I don't think that that's the way he wants to go out. So I think that if they go with Love, it's definitely because Aaron Rodgers can't go. I think that it's because he's hurt.
So you don't think that if they go to so I guess my question is, you think Aaron Rodgers would still be out there if they lose their next 2 games and they're 4-10 and they go into that week 15 or 16, 4-10 out of the playoffs? You can still see him wanting to play in fear of losing his job?
I mean, no, maybe not at that point, but at that point, there's only 1 game left in the season. I'm talking about this coming week because, of his injury and his status is up in the air. So I think that the only way that they completely go to Love is if Rodgers isn't healthy and can't go.
What about you, Ron? Is there any world that Jordan Love, proves himself and he either turns out to be the next, Jimmy G, the next quarterback that people trade for, or he proves himself enough to be the starter? Do you see any of that potentially?
Nah, man. Jordan Love already got his opportunity. I don't think that he did anything with it. Even in the preseason, when he played, he didn't, dazzle. He didn't show out. He didn't, prove anybody, that he is the next big guy, especially in Green Bay following Rodgers. But this goes back to a Patrick Beverley LeBron situation to me. Patrick Beverley said, if LeBron wants to play, we gonna play, because LeBron runs that league, and Aaron Rodgers runs the Green Bay Packers, man. If he wants to play, he's gonna start. If he doesn't, then he's gonna let Jordan Love take over. They have a 2% chance. If we're going deep dive in the numbers, there's a 2% chance that they make the playoffs. So obviously they have to win out. Somebody would have to lose against somebody else. But this situation to me is just that Aaron Rodgers is going to do what he wants. And he's an asshole, dude. Like I saw a meme that said Aaron Rodgers waited behind Brett Favre, till Brett Favre became the asshole. And now Aaron Rodgers is doing the exact same thing. So as far as him playing, I think he plays just to stick it to the Packers and say, I'm here and I'm going to start. And at the end of the season, I don't want to be here. I don't know how his contract is. I know they paid him, but I think this is him saying that I should have left. You should have traded me, and you traded Adams. So this is a big, F you to them. And I think he's not going to be there, and he's not going to let Jordan Love play.
Yeah, I agree kind of with your notion that he's an asshole, because I do think he is, honestly. I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers fan. I've said it multiple times on the podcast. But the one thing I'll say is that the Packers did mess up. They should have let go, or they should have tried to get what they could for Rodgers while the getting was good. I think that time is past. I think we have a whole season on tape, whether or not he's injured or not. Honestly, a lot of that to me, I like to say loser limp. When a guy's losing and it's not going so good, oh, shoot, you know what, dude? I've been playing with a broken rib this whole season, and my thumb on my throwing hand, it magically has been hurt for the past, 6 weeks. We wouldn't hear about this stuff if the record was the other way around, or they were 8-4. So they're 4-8. Things are going bad. We're starting to hear about all of this other things accumulating with Rodgers and what have you. I think the Packers would be best if they cut ties as soon as possible. Trade him, get what you can for him, and end it. Look what happened with the Seahawks. They cut ties with Russell Wilson, another guy that always had the spotlight on him. The team's success was 100% revolved around him. And look at the Seahawks and look at the Broncos. Look at the team that paid up to get Russell Wilson, a broken asset that we're finding out that he was. And the Broncos, they're 2-7 or whatever, 3-8. I don't know their record, but they're out of the playoffs.
That draft pick looks nice.
Yeah, and it looks nice, exactly. So I think the Packers, they need to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. He should not be wearing green and yellow next season.
But how do you all feel? So are you all completely out on Love? I mean, I know that he looked pretty good on one. Well, he threw a slant and Watson just took it 60 and or 70, however many yards it was. But how do you all feel? What's the temperature on Love? Y'all believers? Y'all think that he can still get it turned around, or are you out on Love?
I think
it sounded like Ron had seen enough already.
I think the jury's still out on him. I think it's very hard to get a very good read on what Love can do for your team based on the opportunities that he's been given. It's very hard for a guy that doesn't get the number one reps in practice to go out and perform on Sunday when he's asked to, if he hasn't been practicing with the ones all week. That never happens because Rodgers is taking up all the snaps. So you're never going to be able to see what this guy can do until he gets like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, 4 weeks in a row of being the one, taking the one reps every single week with the guys, and then seeing what he can do with you when you're putting all of your chips into his basket and you're preparing him every Sunday instead of letting that asshole think that he can walk around the facilities and, do what he wants. Because that's what's going on. I'm telling you guys, that's what's going on. That's why they're 4-8.
But even to that, man, I think if you do all that with Jordan Love, I still think he doesn't win you games.
Well,
the Packers have been extremely fortunate to have a quarterback like Brett Favre and then transition to, the guy that we're just talking about now, Aaron Rodgers. And it could be like a Broncos situation. It could be like a Colts situation where that quarterback door is just going to keep revolving and
It could turn into that.
And we've seen it now in the league that these rookie quarterbacks, they're getting traded within the first 4 years, for sure, before their contract is, over. Jordan Love has already been there 2 years. If it doesn't work, you could be looking for, somebody else. I think that Rodgers is gone after this year, and it's going to be a revolving door over there in Green Bay, and it's going to turn into another Broncos situation, Indianapolis Colts situation.
Yeah, but I would want to see Love get some run just to find out this season what it is with this guy for sure. Because I don't think he's going to make a judgment.
I will say, Roland, he looked very comfortable. Like, he didn't have that look of like what's going on. At least this past week when he came in relief and he had that touchdown drive, like, you could tell he kind of wanted to get the ball back. He didn't just look like that, like, oh, I'm in my zone. He was kind of chilling. He had a little bit more confidence in him. However, I haven't been a believer in him, since the beginning. But I do think the best case scenario for the Packers is just to let him finish the season.
Yep.
We were saying the same thing about Trey Lance, and then Jimmy G came in and showed him what's up. I know he got hurt, but he wasn't. It was like he finally got to start. He's getting all the runs, with the first team and all this, and he didn't really go out there and kill it for all the hype that he had either. That's kind of the situation that I'm seeing Jordan Love in.
I see, but we got to see it.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at. We got to see it, see what he's got. And you were talking
Trey
about
got his shot.
Yeah, Trey got a shot, and and your take right now, Ron, you were talking about confidence. I'll tell you where there's a lot of confidence right now. That's in the NFC East. You got this headline up here, the NFC Beasts. Yes, it's correct. The NFC East, all 4 teams have winning records. People used to call this division the NFC Least just a couple of months ago, really. If you think about it, now everyone's 10-1 with the Eagles, 8-3 Cowboys, and the Giants and Commanders are both at 7-4. Guys, I'll start with you, Ron, since you're the resident Cowboy fan, along with me and Justin on the podcast.
I have given up on them.
Are you? I know, yeah, we both did with that Dak injury for sure. But Ron, are you buying the strength of the NFC East, or do you think maybe the the Giants and Commanders might be a little inflated?
No, man, I'm definitely buying in here. The Giants and the Commanders are 7-4 and 7-5, and they would be tied for the 4th best record in the entire NFC. Complete NFC. The only other team with the better record than them is in the NFC North, and that's the Vikings. 49ers are tied at 7-4, but it's great to see this, as a Cowboy fan, and it's bad to see it because the competition is so good. But if we're playing these teams twice a year and they're tough teams, that's only making us stronger for the postseason. We're not playing these crappy teams that are under 500 and we look like stars, ending up at, 12-3 or 12-4, or, whatever it is. And then we go and we lose in the first team of the playoffs. I think it's good for the Cowboys as a whole to be playing competition as good as this twice a year, especially leading up to the playoffs. Every team is hitting their peak. It's going to be tough. I think the Cowboys still make the playoffs, even though that division is so stacked. And it's a good sign for us because the NFC is so weak right now. Other than the Vikings, there really isn't another team that can scare you. Maybe the 49ers are there too, but other than that, the Rams are done. We have nothing from the Packers this year. So it's looking good for the Cowboys as far as the NFC East future.
What about you, Ben? I know you were high on the Giants in the middle of the season. I know you were backing them with your weekly contest picks. Are you buying them top to bottom, the NFC East?
I'm buying them on playing like tough football in that division now. It seems like all of those teams, we can, they hang their hat on their defense now. Even the Washington Commanders, that defense that everybody expected and had seen glimpses of last year, to end the season, they're finally coming around. They have a quarterback with some confidence. The morale in Washington has been completely flipped. Now they're feeling themselves. You know what I mean? And then you just have good coaching with the Giants. I really think it boils down to, the coaching there. Brian Dabble, like, he's done wonders for them. It's just about, dumbing it down and not overthinking it. And I think that he does a really good job of that. Last week, pretty tough week for Saquon Barkley. They're going to go as far as Saquon Barkley takes them. So, when you have those really tough matchups, like against the Cowboys defense, where Saquon is usually pretty limited, it's going to be tough for the Giants, to rely on Jones to get them the win. So I'm buying the Giants to a certain level. I mean, they're going to be a playoff team. They'll be a tough out just because of the brand of football that they play, but they're not beating anybody just because they have the more talent on the field. It's definitely just playing harder. Same with the Commanders.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of good coaching, a lot of giving Daniel Jones easy throws to make. Like I can't tell you how many rollouts or play action rollouts he's had where he just has an open guy that he throws to the flats and the tight end takes it for 15 yards just because he's wide open with nobody around him. So definitely the scheme has improved in New York. I'm buying the NFC East from top to bottom, just like you guys are. They've all found an identity, like Ben said, that's surrounded by their defense. And that's what you need in the NFL to start. You need an identity. You need to know who you are every week, unless you're a team like the Patriots, who historically they were known for changing it up from week to week, but most teams need an identity, and the NFC East, all four of them have it. My next question to you guys is it mathematically even possible for all four to get in the playoffs? I know there's 7 and 4 spots are for the division winners, but could we see the 3 non-division winners get in as wild cards?
I think you can see 3, not all 4, because obviously somebody gets in with the bye. Another team can get in with the top wild card spot.
But it would be the Eagles getting in with the bye.
For sure. And then the Cowboys would come in with the first spot in the wild card. And I guess the question is, could the Commanders and the Giants play for the wild card?
I don't see why not. I mean, the wild card just comes down to best records.
To the best records, right? Yeah.
In that division. So, I mean, the Bucks are probably going to get that division champion, probably either the 49ers or the Seahawks. And then out of that other division, it's only the Vikings. So I think that every team in that division can make the playoffs.
I was going to say, as it stands, all 4 of them are in the top 7.
Yeah.
The Eagles have the 1 spot. The Cowboys are at the 5, Giants at the 6, and Commanders at the 7, followed by the Seahawks and the Falcons and the Lions.
Could you have a NFC East, NFC championship? That'd be crazy.
Potentially, yeah. I think you could.
That'd be nuts.
That's awesome. Atlanta can. That's true. El Gran Galan. Shout out.
Alex, what's up? El Gran
Galan. Great pronunciation, Roland.
Shout out.
Love the confidence just going
out in the comments. Atlanta can take the division. That's actually, I heard somebody talking about it on the Sports Talk Radio this morning.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers are like minus 300 or 400 to win the division still. I mean, why not throw a little bit of lunch money on the Falcons?
Because right it's Marcus Mariota, bro. That's why.
You have
I'm just trying to shout out
Gran Galan, Alex. The Bucks are minus 400. The Falcons are plus 500. The Saints are plus 800. And then you have the Panthers at plus 1,800.
Why not sprinkle a little on the Falcons? I don't think things are.
Falcons at plus
the Bucks,
500.
Right when you think things are getting better with the Bucks, they turn around. So
as far as the NFC East, the Giants and the Commanders are plus 5,000 to win the division. The Cowboys are plus 275, and the Eagles are up minus 400.
Do you guys see the Seahawks maybe getting in?
Dude, their run game is crazy good.
I think that it's going to end up. I think it's going to end up getting to where it's like, okay, so these are the Seahawks that we kind of expected. They're putting up points, but they're getting in shootouts. I mean, listen, they lost to the Las Vegas Raiders, all right? That's the bottom of the fucking totem pole right now in the NFL. So losing a game to them and then a game that, you kind of injured Derek Carr for some of the game, that's a must-win game. Yes, everybody got their fantasy stats. Kenny Walker got in twice. Lockett scored a touchdown. Everybody got their stats. Metcalf got his stats, but they lost the game. I think when it comes down to it, we're going to be looking at the Seahawks and being like, okay, so it's a race. It's a marathon. It's not a race. You know what I mean? Or it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. So I think that's how we're going to be looking at the Seahawks at the end of the year. Still going to be looking to draft the quarterback. Geno isn't the answer.
It was a nice story. It was a nice story for a little while.
At 6-5, they'd be in first place in the NFC South and second to the Vikings in the North. So they're up there.
It's crazy. And they got the 49ers there that I think they're going to take that division. So, it's looking a little bit harder for the Seahawks. And I kind of agree with Ben. They are going to start to show their true colors as we get here towards the end of the year. Flipping it over, though, staying with the top 10 and, playoff contentions, let's go over to the AFC, the conference that, everybody was talking about being like how can I say, like the group of death, if you will, just being a razor blade conference, if you will, like just no easy outs. So here you got the Chiefs that are in first place, Dolphins second place, Titans in third, Ravens in fourth, Bills in fifth, Bengals in sixth, and Jets in seventh.
The AFC stacked, man.
Yep. Patriots eighth, Chargers ninth, Colts 10th. That's the top 10 right there. But
hey, them Chargers, man. Them Chargers. Another year of them Chargers.
And like, how can you sleep on the Bengals too? They're at 7-4, tied atop of the NFC North with getting Jamar Chase back and Mixon. I mean, there's just so many teams here, man.
Yeah, and Lamar Jackson just left practice with an undisclosed injury. So I don't know. I have a ticket on the Ravens to win the AFC North. It was looking a little bit better maybe like 2-3 weeks ago, but things have changed a little bit. And the Bengals look good, but at the end of the day, for me, I just, for the Bengals, it comes down like they have a good defense. I think they have a solid defense. It's not a world beater by any means, but I can't rely, as crazy as it sounds, like it's all down to Joe Burrow, 100%. Like if Joe Burrow doesn't go out and play like a 5-star quarterback every single Sunday, especially in the playoffs, they're gonna lose. I think
that's what he is, though. So like, I mean, that's why you can rely on those guys. That's what teams relied on with Brady and Rodgers in the past. He's just that new age, and he's gonna have to live up to that moment.
So, but I'm saying, like, do you think he's there now, like to where you can see the Bengals making another run to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, he's talking like it too. He's saying like we got to start showing, our championship pedigree here down the home stretch. They have some tough games coming up. They have hopefully Jamar Chase coming back this week. He's been out 4 weeks. They've been getting wins. They've been winning ugly. They beat, Tennessee in a nasty one last week. And then they've also winning shootouts where Samaje Perine is scoring 3 touchdowns. They've been without Mixon as well. I think that it sounds weird saying they're a seasoned team, but that's just the presence that Joe Burrow brings to the team as the leader. Everybody just feels really comfortable with him in control. So I'm a believer.
So you're backing the Bengals going into Arrowhead? Okay.
They play in a week or two. So we'll revisit that conversation, but let's not forget they are the team that beat them last year.
That's why I asked the question. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm there just yet. I want to see it play out in the regular season because they play in a week or two. So we'll see it.
What about you, Ron? Joe Burrow is your guy. Are you buying the Bengals as true contenders?
You know what, man? AFC? You know what? I took a ticket before the season started on them to make the playoffs, and that wasn't looking good at the beginning of the year. But they came back. They're very calm. They're very composed. They have a great coach. I don't think that they panic, and they're the team in the AFC that you can say, hey, they're going up against the Chiefs. They're going up against the Bills. They're going up against the Ravens, but those lines are always so close because out of all the teams, you do believe that they have a chance to win, but I want to talk about the Dolphins, man. They're the sleeper team to me coming out of the AFC. I think that they're doing extremely well, and I think that continues. They have a huge game coming up against the San Francisco 49ers. We know that their head coach was the ex-OC over there in San Francisco, so it's going to be a hell of a game to watch. I think that they win that game because I haven't loved what I've seen from San Francisco. They've been a little bit more hit or miss this year. And I want to say that the Dolphins are getting points. So I'm definitely on the Dolphins as that sleeper. They could be this year's Bengals. And do not sleep on the Dolphins. And I'm falling off the Bills, man. I'm falling off of that Bills. I said it at the beginning of the year.
Don't do it, Ron.
Josh Allen and Jim Kelly, man. It's just like Jim Kelly reborn 20 years later. They're fading, and they're not fading at the right time. We got that little elbow injury. Gabe Davis isn't performing as well. They don't have that second.
Von Miller's hurt now.
They don't have that second guy.
OBJ's coming to town, baby.
They don't have that second guy behind Diggs, man. So I'm a little worried for the Bills. But obviously the biggest person, the guy at the top of the castle, at the top of the mountain is Patrick Mahomes. You get through Patrick Mahomes and you're fine. And I think the Dolphins have a great chance of doing this year. So, of course, I want the Bengals. Joe Burrow's my guy, but I would like to see a little partying in South Beach for the Dolphins this year.
That would be a good story. And, back to your Bills point, For me, it comes down to, what we talked about in the preseason when we were doing our division breakdowns about, all those close games that they lost. Everybody was talking about it. They were still talking about it, going into this season because they lost I think their first 2 close games or 1-score games. We were all expecting for the positive regression to happen this season since they lost so many close games. They've won a few, but they're still back to their old ways of losing these close games that they should win. Prime example in a little recency, just because it just happened last week or the week before, was them blowing that game against the Vikings. No excuse for that. It's just, and I'm saying all this to say that, are they ever going to be a team that can consistently win these close games when we need them to in the playoffs, in the clutch, when you need, when the margin is you're not going to blow every team out. You're going to play the Chiefs again, and there's going to be another, it's going to come down to the last drive. Are you going to be able to win those games?
Blowing everybody out, baby.
See, I like that confidence, Ben. I like it. But I guess are you worried at all that like the defense is
he's worried,
looking a little hit or miss?
I'm not worried because the playoffs are a given. And I just think once we're in the playoffs, then it starts all over. And then, guys start playing different. Listen, Tua's never been in the playoffs before. So he's finally having some regular season success. We've seen these guys go into the playoffs in their first year. They've had the pieces on Tua that everybody had given up on him, but this coach made a whole highlight reel and made him feel good about himself, and now he's back. The playoffs are a different animal. I think the Bills just got to get to the playoffs and try and get as healthy as they can.
My last question on this topic, and we can move on to the next sport, is do you think they're a team that needs to play at home? Because they have one of the best home field advantages
they need to play
in the
home.
NFL.
Yes, they do, especially against those other quarterbacks. You want to play Mahomes in 20-degree weather, with some snow on the field. Same for Burrow. Yes, you want to.
Yeah, Tua wants to play like in South Beach.
You think Tua wants to go play in that snow?
No, he doesn't, for sure.
He's going to have to. He's going to have to in a couple of weeks.
Well, yeah, because the Bills will probably still end up winning the East. So, that's what it comes down to. They don't win the East, they're in trouble.
Yeah,
the Dolphins are going into Buffalo in a couple of weeks.
They're tied right now. They're both at 8-3, and to me, the team with the better momentum are the Miami Dolphins, man.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins are for real. I at the beginning of the season, I'm not gonna lie, I thought they were a little bit on the pretender side. I thought Tua's
been there before.
Colors,
he's got a natty.
Come on,
he looks legit. Tua's a starting quarterback in the NFL. I'm not going to say he's a perennial
roll tide, baby.
He's going to be in the Joe Burrow category or anything, but he's a starter. So I got to give Tua his due for sure. But that was the Daily Shield, a little long, but it's the NFL. We got to talk about it. We got to get into this stuff. We got to give you guys our opinions because we're going to talk about it again on Sunday, and we're going to give you guys some picks, and we're going to revisit some of these conversations like Ben and I talking about the Bengals and Chiefs in a few weeks with that matchup. So maybe a little pod bet coming.
Oh, shit.
Moving on to the amateurs, if you will, not so much anymore with NIL. Everybody's getting that bag. It's conference championship week. We just had the final committee rankings, if you will, for the college football playoffs. The number one that's been there pretty much all year, Georgia, remained at the top, followed by Michigan, who beat Justin's Ohio State Buckeyes
he got sick. That's why my boy got sick.
The horseshoe in Ohio State. They're at number 2. TCU moves up to number 3. Got to give a little hand clap to the Horned Frogs there. They're not sitting at 4 because that's occupied by Caleb Williams, the new Heisman favorite, and the USC Trojans, then followed by Ohio State and Alabama. Like I said, it's conference championship week. We got We got USC playing Utah in Las Vegas on Friday. USC catching 3, or they're 3-point favorites rather.
USC lost to them already.
They've already lost once. I'll start the conversation there. Do you guys think the Trojans punched their ticket this Saturday as a 4 seed or Friday? Yeah.
Ron, you believing in Caleb Williams and the Trojans?
Man, I saw this kid play his last game, and he was a man amongst the boys out there on the field, man. And if I'm freezing and I'm lagging, my bad, I'll just do this take real quick. He's a man among men. I mean, he's a man among boys. I think he wins the Heisman this year. And believe it or not, I think he takes his team to the national championship, man. Those guys are playing with a lot of confidence and they're playing very free. To me, they can get past Michigan. I think Georgia might be their only trouble because I think Georgia's so disciplined. But USC is a dark horse to win the Natty.
Yeah, I think he's a surefire for the Heisman now. I think he's the odds-on favorite, and it's pretty steep at this point. The question to me is like, do they have to win this? They have to beat
they
Utah
have to
get in, right? They can't.
Yeah.
They can't. Like we'll talk about TCU might be in a different scenario where they might be able to afford one, but USC they gotta win. I mean, it's a Utah team that has been very on and off this year. Definitely, didn't get to their expectations. I don't see why USC doesn't beat Utah, especially in a revenge game, knowing what's on the line. So I hated on USC's defense a lot at the beginning of the year when Justin and Ron were on USC, and I still don't think that they're can get to the championship game, but I do think they can beat Utah, and I really hope that they do because I want them to keep Alabama and Ohio State out.
Yeah, I don't know if USC can win the national championship necessarily outright, but I do like their chances against Utah. I do think Utah is going to be fired up. I do think that I heard a clip from their coach. He's already pulling that card of, oh well, Caleb Williams. They've already wrote him in to win the Heisman. USC, they're already the number 4 seed in the national championship playoffs. So all of this stuff's already happened. So he's playing that card with this team. They're going to come in motivated. They already know they can beat USC. But it's going to be very hard for me to back Utah in this game. I'm leaning more towards backing USC because USC right now is just on a rocket ship, I think, offensively. They're playing as good as they have all year. And like Ron said, they have a guy in Caleb Williams where in the NFL, you can't really go. I mean, sometimes you can, but a lot of instances you can't just go off of the better quarterback. In college, Caleb Williams can mask a lot of problems, especially at the Pac-12 championship level. Maybe not going up and playing Georgia or somebody like that, but I think he has enough to get it done. I've been a Caleb Williams fan since last year. I remember sitting in a bar watching OU in Texas around a bunch of Texas fans, and I had an OU ticket. And Caleb Williams, he won my heart over that faithful Saturday afternoon, and I've been a fan ever since. Kid can ball. Kid should win the Heisman. Kid should be looked at as maybe the number 1 pick next year when he decides to come out. But yeah, I like USC this weekend to beat Utah. I think it's gonna be close. It's a toss-up game, like Ben said. They've already played each other once before. And so moving on to, the other championship games that'll be played, we got Georgia, or do you want to go to the Big 12 championship game, Ben?
Yeah, let's go to the Big 12. The TCU's playing Kansas State. TCU has already beaten Kansas State, although Kansas State a really tough team. They're always a tough out, really well coached. It's people are saying, I heard the Bear and Stanford Steve talking about TCU can afford a loss and still get in, that their seat is pretty much locked up due to their strength of schedule and what they've done. They can afford to lose one game and still get in. I tend to agree after really not being much of a TCU believer, but they went through a gauntlet in the Big 12. The Big 12 was no easy outs this year. That a road game in West Virginia is still a tough out because it's a road game in West Virginia. You know what I mean? So Kansas was on the up and up this year. So there was a lot of tough games this year. I think even with the loss, TCU is in.
All of this comes down to name brand. That's all that it comes down to. 100%. It's sad and, as generic as that may sound, because a bunch of people like to rant about this, but I can't make a better example. And again, something else that I heard, if this were the Texas Longhorns in that 3 spot, for sure, people would be saying that they can afford a loss, right? But since it's TCU, we're having this conversation. I agree with you, Ben. I think they've been through a gauntlet.
And they've already been done dirty once by the committee.
They've already been done dirty once. We all know what happened when they got left out, for sure. I think they can afford a loss. You can't. Another thing I heard, you can't penalize TCU for playing an extra game and then letting Ohio State or Alabama jump them just because they lost because they played an extra game. TCU did what they needed to do. They won close games. Yeah, they didn't blow a lot of people out. It took, some quarterbacks getting injured along the way, even in this the rematch of the Kansas State game. That's what happened in their first matchup. They ended up going up against like the second or third stringer by the time the game was over. But they still got their W's. They still beat the people that they lined up against every week, and they got it done. So, yeah, TCU, to me, I think they can afford a loss. Do I know am I confident that the committee will see it that way? I'm not so sure. Because I can see if they lose a 31-20 game, I can see them getting jumped by one of these teams. Unfortunately, do I agree it should happen? No. But the committee, they have a track record for leaning towards the Ohio States and the Alabamas of the world.
Yeah, and the Georgias and the Michigans of the world. That's why I think that the number one and the number two, it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, the matchups, Michigan's playing Purdue. Yes, it'd be a bad loss, but Michigan is pretty secured in there after the way that they beat Ohio State. I think whatever happens, they're in. And I mean, they're a huge favorite to Purdue. And then you got Georgia. Who are they playing in the SEC title game?
Let me pull that up.
It's another game where they're favored by damn near 2 touchdowns.
LSU.
And LSU. Okay, so I think there were like 10-point favorites around there. So I mean, LSU also with a very bad loss a couple of weeks ago last week to Texas A&M. So I mean, it's a team that Georgia should go in there and beat up. But even if they lose to them, it's a ranked LSU. Georgia's gonna stay in there with their one loss. So yeah, at this point, I think Georgia and Michigan are set in stone to be in the playoff.
Yep, and even up until this past week, TCU's resume was probably more impressive than Michigan's until they beat Ohio State. So it is what it is. Name brand recognition goes a long way in almost every sport. So I'm not saying anything new.
Hey, shout out the TCU coaching staff, though. I mean, Patterson just left, and they quick replacement.
They beat them in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, that's you got to tip your hat to that new coaching staff out down there.
For sure. Shout out TCU. Hope they can make it to the college football playoff. Really rooting for them, even though I'm not a TCU fan per se. That was some good college talk. I'm interested to see what Justin's take on all of these are, especially what his take on it. TCU is, because he's been on the other side of TCU.
You think he would have been here arguing that Ohio State should still be getting in?
I think he would make the case that as soon as TCU loses, you need to kick him out, because he's been saying zero margin for error the past couple weeks.
Yeah.
So that I'm pretty sure that's what his take would be. But Justin, if you're out there, interested to hear what you got to say on that. Moving on, I talked about it this past Thanksgiving. We were all treated to some World Cup soccer that included USA versus England on Black Friday. That's what it was. It was USA versus England on Black Friday.
Yeah.
Ended up being a draw, which led to the dramatics that unfolded yesterday with the USA inching away from Iran in the last moments. Well, it went down to the last moments. They scored their goal earlier than that, but it was very dramatic up till the end. They find themselves with the round of 16 matchup against the Netherlands. You see the odds up on the board for those of you guys watching. USA plus 340, Netherlands minus 115. I personally think it's a little long. Ben, could you see yourself backing the red, white, and blue this weekend?
I think that they've played really well. I think that in that group, none of us really expected. We expected them to, play hard against England. We didn't necessarily expect to win, but I mean, you could even say that they outplayed England in that draw.
Had the better chances.
Came up with better chances, exactly. More opportunities, and honestly, looking at Netherlands, yes, a 1-0 win against Belgium, 2-0 against Poland. I mean, Senegal. They played Senegal, Ecuador, and Qatar. So I'm sorry, I was looking at a previous schedule. But teams that really, are not very highly ranked in the FIFA standings. It's a lot of CONCACAF teams, in Ecuador and Senegal and then Qatar. It's nothing really to be bragging about. Nothing that, I mean, like you said, the gap in the price, definitely not warranted. Not with the way that the USA has played. Of course, the status of Christian Pulisic a little bit up in the air. He did exit the game after scoring the goal. But he said that he's a go for Saturday. He went out. I don't know if he tweeted it or where he put it on social media, but I agree, bro. The price is really high. I think it's going to be a rather cagey match. You know what I mean? So one goal might just secure the win for USA, kind of like it did this past week against Iran.
Yeah,
So
I'll definitely be looking to be betting the unders in this game. I think it's going to be played very, very tight. Like Ben said, it's going to be a cagey match. The Netherlands, the best way that I can describe their World Cup performance is they've just done what they've needed to do up to this point. They've performed. They haven't, blown anybody out. They haven't had any of those 6-2 or 7-0 victories like Spain had, or who was the 6-2 that I'm referring to that won the other day. England over Iran there in game one. I haven't had any of those performances, but they have a solid defense. They have Luis van Gaal, their old manager from when they made their run with Wesley Sneijder and Aaron Robin back in the day. I guess, Ron, the question I want to ask you is, are you confident in the U.S. chances this weekend, or do you think, because you were actually on the other side of the U.S., or you were saying that you were, or you were doubting.
What do you mean, dog?
Or you were doubting that the U.S. would be able to actually get it done? Because let's just put it out there. This group has gotten a lot of hype for not really doing anything. So, Ron, what are your takes on the USA so far? Do you think they have a chance against the Netherlands?
Hell yeah, man. I think they're going to get it done, especially at plus 340. I'm definitely laying some money on that. They came together and they won when they had to. And when your back's against the wall on literally the biggest stage in the world and you come through, man, that your confidence is going to go extremely high. I think it's a good spot coming up in against the Netherlands, have the Netherlands really impressed this this competition, these last couple matches? I mean, we can't say for sure. Yes, they didn't look amazing. So I think the USA has a puncher's chance. Pulisic was a little more dramatic, I think, than he had to be. I know he got hit where a lot of guys don't want to get hit, and that was really, the biggest thing. I don't think it was really an injury per se. It looked really good, Captain America, great vibes for Team USA. I don't know if he had to, let them play with 10 men for, 5 minutes, but they got the win regardless of it, and I think they can do it again. And it would be really cool. Unfortunately, the game's Saturday at 9 a.m. I'll be working, but I'm sure the rest of the world will have fun watching.
Yeah, for me, the Christian Pulisic, he needs to play, obviously, for the U.S., I think, to have a chance. He's their engine that keeps them going. But also, secondly, more like schematically, I just need to see the U.S. continue to be the more aggressive side, because historically, the U.S. against these sides that have had more talent than them, they've typically, played not to lose or played for the tie. Right. Just need to see them being more aggressive, because I think they have the athleticism on the back end to keep up with some of these guys now, when they are pressing up, so they don't have to worry so much about being countered all the time. So I hope to see a continued aggressive USA side and creating chances. They're lacking the quality and the finish.
I think that they got the monkey off their back scoring that goal, because that was their whole story. Is they couldn't score. They couldn't score. They finally broke the ice, and they'll carry that momentum into the next game. Put your money on USA, bro.
It's not like they drew a powerhouse like, Brazil or Argentina.
They have a chance.
Or France. Germany or Spain, France. Yeah, like you're playing the Netherlands. This is a very winnable game.
Yeah.
A lot of people already didn't expect you to be, past the qualifying stages with Wales, and some people were very high on Iran as well. So, they're battle tested. Like we said, Netherlands wins are against Qatar and against Senegal. So it's not teams with much class. A 1-1 draw with Ecuador. This is not I don't think it's a very tall feat for the USA. Yes, do they deserve to be the underdog? 100%. But this is a very winnable game. Very winnable game.
Netherlands to win it all is plus 1,600, and USA to win it all is plus 10,000. The over-under on the match is 2.5. Minus 107 for the over, and under is 123.
Yeah, unders all day.
You're getting a good price, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see more than 2 goals being scored in that game.
Take it now.
How tight I think it's going to be.
The draw's coming in at plus 250 for the draw.
Maybe a first half draw, Roland?
Yeah, first half draw. Another, those have been cashing at a pretty crazy rate. Been a lot
first
of
half
draws
under
in the goal and the group stages. So definitely going to be looking at that, because the 2 advance betting options open up in these rounds. So bet the three-way on the game, but you can still bet on, the USA to advance. So even if it's a draw in the whole game, you still got the ticket for them to advance through extra
So
time.
they start going to penalty kicks after extra time in this round, I
Yep.
believe.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where it gets fun.
That's where it gets real fun, and we're all going to be watching. I know Ron said he's going to be working, but I know he's going to have it there on his phone, there on the side, got the game going on. See some betting tickets from We All Win, and
Why do they do
we're
that?
all going to cash.
Why do they do that, bro? 9 a.m. Come on, dog. Put this shit in
not
prime
in the
time.
USA, bro. It's not in the USA.
If anybody's been watching the World Cup in the comments, please let us know your thoughts on the USA's chances and who you guys got winning it all. But we're going to wrap things up tonight with a little NBA talk. I know we teased it a few weeks ago with the NBA tipping off that we'd be getting into this a little bit more and starting to talk about this on our weekly podcasts. And without further ado, we're going to be looking at early MVP looks. Going from left to right, pictured for those of you guys watching, it's Jason Tatum for the Boston Celtics, Nikola Jokic, returner to this list. Another guy that's here often, Stephen Curry, Giannis, and Luka. Usual suspects for sure. Usual suspects at the top 5.
No Harden?
No Harden. He's not there. The only guy missing. What do you guys think about this list? If you were to put some money down on somebody today, who would you like to make a wager on?
Ben can start. Y'all can take over on this.
Yeah, well, I'm not the biggest Luka fan to begin with. And I mean, I honestly don't think that they're going to have a very good record at the end of the season. Like, they're not going to be a top 3 or a top 4 team. And I think usually the MVP comes from those higher ranked teams. I think that Jason Tatum is the guy for me right now. The Celtics have the best record in the NBA. They had all that situation with their coach. The coach isn't there. Even more reason, why they have to adapt to a new coach. The storyline is there. Jason Tatum is one of those guys that is, the face of the league, one of those new up-and-comers, one of those Kobe Bryant disciples. Everybody in the league really likes Jason Tatum. So I think that it's a good spot for Jason Tatum. I think the Celtics are probably, going to be a 1 or 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, this is the way too early NBA MVP voting, but I would go with Jason Tatum. I think that they're going to see a new face, getting the MVP hardware. And I think the Celtics are going to be, a stamp in the NBA when it comes to the playoff time.
What about you, Ron? You sticking up for your boy Luka here? You're going to put a little bit of lunch money on Luka to win the MVP?
I mean, I don't see why not, man. You never know what can happen on the trade deadline. These guys, these trades happen. So I would say do it now just in case the line gets worse later. What are we at? We're at plus 250 for Luka, plus 250 for Giannis. Tatum's at plus 450. Embiid, who we haven't talked about, is at plus 1,000 to round out the top 4. I just hate this picture that I did because Curry's just chilling there, man, with his 2 MVPs, and that upsets me
MVPs.
so much. But this is just
Ben's. Go ahead, Ron.
No, this is just, are we finally going to see a changing of the guard? We're seeing it happen in the NFL with the young quarterbacks, taking over, for the older guys. But is this going to happen this year? And with Tatum and Luka, I think that the younger guys have a shot. It's just unfortunate that it all does go back to wins. But we saw Jokic, win this award when his team wasn't, they were great. They were really good. They had a winning record, but they weren't necessarily at the top of
they were like top 4,
so,
I think top 4, top 5. And to yours and Ben's point, the Mavs right now, and this is early, way too early. They're sitting at 10th or 9th, outside looking in, I guess, of the top 8, still in the play-in. But I mean, they got the Jazz, who've been overachievers, the Trailblazers, Kings, Pelicans, all above them. Teams that I think they can jump over potentially. They're not, slotted in there for sure. Like, those teams are going to run it the rest of the year. So if I were to pick anybody on this list, I think the safest bet, to Ben's point, is the Celtics. I do think the Celtics are probably going to run away with the best record in the East. But I would bet on Luka. I like Luka's chances. It all goes through him all the time.
That could also be the detriment, though.
Yeah, it could be the detriment in the playoffs for them, like it was for this other guy for years and years, James Harden. He's the white James Harden. Let's just call it what it is.
I know, but James Harden at least had them, as first place in the West, second place in the West.
Yeah, exactly. But it's way too early. Who knows?
And Roland, it's not a good team, Roland.
I know it's not. I'm just saying in a couple weeks, maybe we're looking at this a little bit differently. And like Just way too early. Luka's still putting up numbers.
41, 12, and 12 last night against the Warriors. I mean, that's incredible, dude.
This is
and
like
and
the
they got the
And
this
he's
is
got
the
the media
worst
machine
time.
behind him.
This is the worst time to hate on Luka, but this is also the best time to do this slide because of the game that he just had
Yeah.
against the Warriors last night. But
Yeah.
it's literally like what you said. It's going to be the James Harden effect, and if they lose a couple of games, people are going to get tired of it, and you're going to hear Charles Barkley talking about it's just dribble, 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 and then pass, or shoot at the very end. So it's if there's no success, you're going to hear it, bro. You're going to hear it because he's been on the MVP watch or supposed to be on that ladder for a couple of years now, and last year he wasn't on there. So,
Man, if Steph Curry could get a unanimous decision for this damn award, which was ridiculous, then anything can happen. That's all I'm
for sure. For sure, but
and
I mean,
Ben was about hearing it. You've heard it years and years through your Harden years. So
I know, but
understand
those
where you're
guys that
coming
were
from.
at least sitting at the top of the
Yeah, I
of
know.
the
I'm just saying.
conference.
I'm agreeing with what you're saying as far as Luka's gonna hear it no matter what because there's no one else to look at in Dallas.
Man,
It's
look at the
him.
God.
Exactly.
Bro. Look at the God.
Yeah,
I'm
but
telling
I
you,
like
get his jersey.
Luka.
Get his jersey.
I like his chances this year. Hopefully, the Mavs can turn things around a little bit. Don't have to worry about beating the Spurs this year, so should be some games for stat padding games for him. Just do want to shout out Gene. Haven't seen you in a little while. Shout out Gene.
Primo
Rick. Shout out Rick. Another
podcast listener.
commenter here. Struggling for words to find here at the end of the podcast,
on,
but
Rick.
his take is Brazil's going to take it all, and he's got Brazil versus France in the final or finale, as he likes to call it. Real quick, do you guys like that final right there, Brazil versus France?
I think that those were, some of the odds-on favorites aside of Argentina. I personally don't like it. The Brazil side, yes. The France side, I don't know, man. France, I know today that they really didn't start, anybody because they were already through. But France just has. I don't like France's roster. It's very dependent on Mbappe this year, and I'm not the biggest Mbappe fan. I'm glad Diego's not watching tonight.
Is there anybody you're a fan of, Pat?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Messi, baby. And Richarlison with the goal of the tourney so far. Toddy to the body, baby, for
Toddy to the
Brazil.
body, dog. Hell yeah. I also want to give away a shirt, man. We have barely hardly any left over, but for not doing the show the last couple weeks for you guys, we'll do a contest pretty soon, and we'll go ahead and give out one of the shirts that Ben's wearing, as you can see there. Are we talking about sports original shirt? We'll give that away in a contest for free, just as a thank you to you guys for all the support.
Yep, and I think that's all that we had for the podcast tonight. Like we said in the beginning, little variety show. Wanted to give you guys a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Talk about some college football. Talk about the NFL, NBA. And there's going to be more to talk about as these seasons progress, as we get towards the playoffs in the NFL. We are going to be talking about that every single week, maybe 2 or 3 pods a week. But we got UFC still on the docket, so you guys are going to be seeing us. And thanks for joining as always. You guys have any parting shots?
Yeah, we're going to have a UFC award show. We've been doing it. I think we did it last year. I'm not sure we did it the year before, but little UFC award show that Justin's putting together. So yeah, looking forward to doing that and hopefully having some fun with that show as well.
Yeah, maybe he'll decide to show up. We'll see.
Damn, shots fired.
Peace, boys.
Peace. Later, man.